What is up, everybody? Here we are back. We got Truck Series Las Vegas. Playoffs for the Truck Series starts this weekend, and I'm here to break all that down for you. But before we do, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, turn on the notification bell. All those things really help me out. Had a ton of growth throughout NASCAR season especially, but NBA and NFL now as well. So thank you guys for all your support. If you want to get more of my content, you can subscribe to my Patreon for only $10 a month. You're going to get a spreadsheet with all the stats you need to know, along with projections for all three series combined: Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and Cup Series. You're going to get all of that, along with a daily article for every single race. You're going to get cash scores and all my rankings. So be sure to go check that out for only $10 a month for all three series combined. So, but yeah, I think that's really all I got to say. Let's get into the video, and we're going to start with the most expensive driver, finally, Brett Moffitt. Moffitt's been on a tear recently, leading, like 100 more laps than everybody else in the last 5 races. He starts on the pole for this race after finishing second at Bristol to Sam Mayer, which was a shocker. He has 7th best average finish at Vegas, 5th best at intermediate tracks, and 3rd at steep tracks, but he does have the best average running position at all 3 of those. So yeah, maybe the finishes haven't been the best, but he runs very, very well here. We go look at laps led. He has 57 laps led at Vegas, the most in the field, 433 laps led at intermediate tracks, the most in the field, and 495 laps led at steep tracks, the most in the field. So Moffitt's good here, and he's good at these types of tracks. When we go look at the last 5 races, he has an average finish of 4.75, the best in the field, and 262 laps led. That's over 100 more than everybody else in the field. So Brett Moffitt's just been on a tear. He still hasn't won a race yet this year. He's been running absolutely fantastic this year and has not found a way to get a win, but I still think he's favored for a championship just based on the way he's been running. So I look for him to get off to a very, very good start into these NASCAR playoffs by securing himself his first win of the season. So Brett Moffitt, definitely my favorite Dominator play in the slate. I just think this is a track where he's very, very good at, excels a lot here, in very good starting position too, starts on the pole, so this should be a race where he does well. Austin Hill, 10,700, starting 11th, has been running as well recently, but he does have a 9th best average finish at Vegas, 7th best at intermediates, and 12th at steep tracks. This really isn't the type of track that appeals to him as much. He does have 29 laps led at Las Vegas, which is the 3rd most in the field, but it's still like not a ton. I mean, and you have guys like Zane Smith who's never even ran here, so 344 laps led at intermediate tracks overall is good, and then 135 at steep tracks. We go look at the last 5 races. He does have an average finish of 6.2 and 86 laps led. I think he has Dominator potential, but I think it's more than likely that Brett Moffitt is a Dominator, and I don't think Austin Hill is as likely to be a Dominator. He does offer you some place differential upside starting 11th. I think he is a good play, but I just think there's places I would rather go to. Sheldon Creed's $10,400 starting 4th. He has the 6th best average finish at Vegas, 15th at intermediates, and 14th at steep tracks. And then when we go look at laps led, he only has 8 at Vegas and 179 at intermediate tracks and 151 at steep tracks. So, I mean, it's a track that's been pretty decent to him. I don't know if I would call it like, this is the spot for just Sheldon Creed to just, explode here. We've seen him do that in races this year. In the last 5 races, he only has an average finish of 13.5 though, but he does have 83 laps led. He's had some bad luck in some of those races, getting caught up in accidents or engine issues or something. So I think he's okay. Just probably not the spot that I'd really want to get to. He's kind of better at like the shorter flat tracks than something like Vegas, but I think it's still a fine option. Someone who won't be as highly owned as Brett Moffitt. Zane Smith starts 7th. Every week Zane Smith gets ownership, so I expect him to get ownership again. He has the 4th best average finish at Vegas, the best at intermediates, and the 4th best at steep tracks. We know that Zane Smith's very good at these intermediate tracks. This is where he gets most of his wins at. 0 laps led at Vegas, though, with 125 at intermediates and 50 at steep tracks. When we look at the last 5 races, Zane Smith has an average finish of 9 and 139 laps led. He's been running very, very well as of late, so I continue that to continue. His average finish went down last week from Bristol after he had some mechanical issues in the very end of the race and just dropped like 15 spots. He was like running top 3 the whole race, so I expect Zane Smith to bounce back with a good run here. He looks like one of the championship favorites, as do the other 3 I've just talked about, but one of the favorites to win a championship this year is Zane Smith, so I like him going into this race. I think he's someone who definitely could dominate this race. He starts 7th, gives you a little bit of place differential upside. Probably my second favorite Dominator choice behind Brett Moffitt at the moment, so Zane Smith I do very much like going there. Christian Eckes starts 9th, 13th best average finish at Vegas, but the 4th best at intermediates and 9th best at steep tracks. When we go look at laps led, he has 14 laps led here at Las Vegas, 144 at intermediates and 91 at steep tracks. This is a track that's pretty good for him, but Eckes hasn't been running as good as he was earlier this year recently. Like another driver who still hasn't had that win, but only an average finish of 13.6 in the last 5 races and 34 laps led. Just hasn't found the speed as he was earlier this year. But I mean, it is still Christian Eckes. We know the upside that he brings. I don't know. The tracks that we've been going to haven't necessarily been his his go-to great tracks. I think this is a track where he could succeed at very well. I mean, just look at the driver rating. He's got high driver ratings for all of them as well. But yeah, I mean, I think Eckes is fine. I'd still rather probably get to Zane Smith, but Sheldon Creed and Eckes are probably tied for like my third favorite Dominator choices today. So I think he's a fine option at 9,900. I don't think a lot of people are going to play him because he has kind of been burning people recently, but still a solid option all in all. Grant Enfinger starts third at $9,700. He has third best average finish at Vegas, third best average finish at intermediate tracks, and fifth best at steep tracks. When we go look at the lap sled, he has 46 lap sled at Vegas, 296 at intermediates, and 139 at steep tracks. So yeah, he's pretty good here. This is definitely a place where I do want to attack Grant Enfinger. Last 5 races, only an average finish of 9.6 and 18 lap sled though, but I just think that Grant Enfinger, it's tough because he's usually not a dominator, but what was the race? 2 races ago where he was a dominator, or was it Bristol? No, it wasn't Bristol. There was 2 races ago where Enfinger did dominate and lead some laps and win the race, and I mean, we know he has the upside to do that. So, I mean, I just continue to want to... Oh, it was Richmond. So, I just continue to want to go after him a little bit. $9,700 starting third. He has Dominator upside. It's a good starting spot. He should have a good finish. So, with the upside to lead laps, I think Grant Enfinger is definitely someone I want to go to. Draftkings finally priced Johnny Sauter down, but I still don't want to go there. I mean, yeah, look, he starts 13th and he has the best average finish at Vegas and the best average finish at steep tracks. But this year, we know that Johnny Sauter just has not been good. Last 5 races, an average finish of 20.8 and a 0 lap sled. He missed the playoffs this year. This is just not the spot to ever. I don't think Johnny Sauter's in play at all for the rest of the year, honestly. Just has not been good. It's been a rough year for him. I just continue to not want to go there ever, really. Dylan Lupton is going to be the guy that probably gets a ton of ownership this week. He starts 34th. He's $9,300. No stats for him over the last 2 years at all, so that's fun. But he's driving for the DGR Crossley team. That's a truck that David Reagan was driving for a few races that he ran very, very well in. So I expect a good run from him. Probably at least a top 15, maybe can compete for a top 10. Starting 34th, he's a solid option, but everyone's going to play him, so you might want to get a little different, play some other guys, but I do still think he's fine. Todd Gilliland starts 10th at $9,100. He has the 5th best average finish at Vegas, 9th best at intermediates, and 6th best at steep tracks. When we go look at lap sled, he does only have 5 lap sled at Vegas, though, but 206 at intermediates is solid, and 7 at steep tracks is solid. In the last 5 races, he has an average finish of 12.5 and 78 lap sled. All those came at Gateway. So Todd Gilliland, I think he's a solid option. All these guys down here, they're like, yeah, they could probably compete for a top 3, but more than likely aren't going to be dominators. Ben Rhodes is another one. He's ran really well recently, but 10th best average finish at Vegas, 8th best at intermediates, 8th best at steep tracks. When we go look at the lap sled, only 5 at Vegas, 125 at intermediates, 24 at steep tracks. Last 5 races does have an average finish of 5 and 70 lap sled, but all those laps came in one race. I just don't think... I don't think Ben Rhodes more than likely is going to be a dominator here, but he does have the upside to be a dominator. I think there's other guys that are more likely to be them. So Ben Rhodes, these guys like Gillen, Rhodes, Crafton, Chandler Smith, they're guys just to sprinkle in lineups and hope that they run well enough to to pay off. Like one of these guys more than likely probably ends up in the optimal lineup because the Truck Series races aren't a ton of laps and sometimes you just need a good finishes, but. They're not going to be like core guys. So, like if you're playing cash NASCAR today, I wouldn't play any of these guys. But if you're playing tournaments, you sprinkle them in. Matt Crafton starts 6th, 2nd best average finish at Vegas, 2nd best at intermediates, 2nd best at steep tracks. We know that Crafton's been very good at the 1.5 mile tracks over the years. Only 4 laps led at Vegas over the last 2 years, though, and 106 laps led at intermediate tracks. Last 5 races, he has average finish of 9.2 and 26 laps led. We saw him win at Kansas, or it was one in Kansas or Kentucky earlier this year. He won a race at similar track to Vegas, so I definitely want to get some exposure to in tournaments. Crafton, I expect him to have a good finish. I think the lap lead upside's there, but probably more than likely doesn't. But it's there, so definitely someone I want to have some exposure to. Chandler Smith starts 5th at 8,500. He's just been horrible this year. 23 laps led at the intermediate, or 20 average finish of 23 at intermediate tracks, and 7th best average finish at steep tracks. Just has not been running well. Only 4 laps led at intermediates and 31 at the steep tracks. He's very good at the short tracks, but everywhere else he's not good. An average finish of 19.75 in the last 5 races. Probably not someone I want to go to is Chandler Smith here. Derek Krause starts 14th. He has 19th best average finish at Vegas, 13th best at intermediates, and 17th at steep tracks. 18th best average position at Vegas too. So he just doesn't run well here. 0 laps led at both the intermediates and the and Vegas. 10 laps led at steep tracks though. When we go look at the last 5, he has an average finish of 15.4, 10 laps led. So, just probably not someone I want to get to. It just doesn't seem like he has a lot of upside to get anywhere. This doesn't seem like the type of track he's going to succeed at. So Derek Rouse probably not someone I really want to get a ton of ownership on. Tyler Ankrum had a great run at Bristol last week, leading laps. Was a dominator. I feel like he does that once or twice a year. I don't think this is the spot he does it though. 12th best average finish at Vegas, 12th best average finish at intermediates, and 10th best at steep tracks. Not really the spot to go to. 0 laps led at Vegas, 52 at intermediates though. That was all last year when he won his race in Kentucky, or most part was, and 53 laps led at steep tracks. When we go look at the last 5 races, he does have an average finish of 8.75 and 53 laps led, but all those laps led came last week, so I don't know. I mean, if he can carry the momentum in this week, that'd be huge, but I just don't think this is really the spot where he goes off. This is just not the type of track that seems to suit him, but definitely going to get not a ton of ownership. If you want to sprinkle him in some tournament lineups, I definitely understand that, but not a cash game or a core play at all for me. Stuart Friesen, $8,100, starts 18th. He has the 11th best average finish at Vegas, 10th best at intermediate tracks, 13th at steep tracks. When we go look at he does have 68 laps led at the Vegas, 239 intermediate and 68 at steep tracks. Honestly, Friesen's a little bit too cheap. He had some problems, like accident problems last week, but overall he has an average finish of 9 in the last 5 races. And I mean, I'd rather play him than a lot of these guys down here, like Ankrum, Kraus, Smith. Like, he just has that upside he has place differential upside. He can get you a top 10. He can contend for a top 5. He's looked faster in recent weeks. Yeah, he still missed the playoffs, but he's definitely, like, started the season out horribly. Most of the season was horrible, but recently he's been turning it on, averaging better finishes recently. So I don't hate going there at $8,100. I think he's a solid option just because there's not a ton of solid options down there, and he offers you some solid place differential. He should at least be able to get you a top 10. And at $8,100, I think that's very valuable. Rafael Sarr never raced at Vegas, but he does have the 14th best average finish at intermediates and the 15th best at steep tracks. When we go look at the last 5 races, Rafael Sarr is going to have an average finish of 17.6, which isn't solid. Just hasn't really been a great year for him. It's a shame. I think a lot of people had high expectations for Lassard, but he hasn't really lived up to them. He does have some place differential upside, because Lassard still has top 10 upside that Friesen does as well, and Friesen probably gets more ownership, so I can see going there, but still probably not a spot I really want to get to. Ryan Truex is driving for the Nice truck. Starts 24th, has some place differential upside. Like, the Nice trucks get these guys in to drive their cars, but like Connor Daly and Travis Pastrana, all 3 of them. Let's just talk about all 3 of them. We'll skip Tanner Gray and come back. But Truex, Daly, Pastrana, all 3 of them driving for Nice Motorsports this week. They all have place differential upside, but like, they normally don't really run that well. Like, these trucks like can get you a top 15 on a good day, can compete for a top 10. But we just saw Trevor Bayne driving them, and he was, I mean, not really a great Cup driver, but he was a Cup driver, and he did not have success in those trucks at all. So it's these trucks aren't as good as I think people want to give them credit for. They're a decent team in the field, but probably not the guys I'd really want to go to. I'd say Truex is probably the one I'd feel the most comfortable with because he has the most experience. I mean, Pastrana starts 29th. That's fine. I think he can run inside the top 20. But, I mean, for the most part, I don't really want to get a ton of ownership on these guys, especially because I think they're all going to be popular. If they're not going to get a ton of ownership, which, I mean, I'll look at it closer to the slate, obviously, then I think they're fine, good options to go to. But if they're going to be super highly owned, I don't really want to get there at all. So if you want these are kind of guys, though, you can play in cash for sure, though. I do not hate going there in cash at all. Tanner Gray starts 12th at 7,500. Tanner Gray has the 8th best average finish at Vegas, the 11th best at intermediates, and the 11th best at steep tracks. When we go look at the last 5 races for Tanner Gray, he has an average finish of 18, but, I mean, he finished, 3rd last week? He just got some accidents in that last 5 race average finish for him, obviously, so that's not great. But Tanner Gray, we all know, can run inside the top 10 for sure, so definitely someone I want to get some exposure to in tournaments. I think he's too cheap. Like, I think in this price range, literally everyone's going to play the 2 guys priced ahead of him and the 2 guys priced below him, and no one's going to play Tanner Gray. And Tanner Gray has the only one out of all the 5 of those guys who can finish inside the top 5. None of those other ones have any sort of potential of finishing inside the top 5. Tanner Gray can. Great tournament play, in my opinion. Probably want to go there in cash. I would go to the other ways in cash, but in tournaments, definitely someone I want to get to. Spencer Davis starts 32nd at 7,200. He'll probably be the most popular player on the slate, honestly. 14th best average finish at Vegas. It really isn't even that bad. 16th at intermediate, 16th at steep tracks. When you go look at the last 5 races, Spencer Davis only has an average finish of 25.5, though, so there's definitely reasons to fade him in tournaments. I could totally understand that, but in cash, definitely someone I want to go to. I mean, we know he can finish inside the top 20. He has that upside starting 32nd. That's pretty valuable. It's definitely someone I want to get to. Tyler Hill's back in the Hill Motorsports truck, which is better than that other crap he's been driving recently. Starts 16th, though. Last 5 races, only an average finish of 25.5. I don't really want to get there. He just starts too high. Danny Bone at 6,900 starts 20th. In the last 5 races, Bone has an average finish of 26. We've seen him be able to finish like 20th, so he's not cheap enough where if he just rides around his position, he's good enough, so not someone I want to get to. Austin Wayne Self seems like he wrecks every single race, but starts 26 at 6,700, 15th best average finish at intermediates, 17th at, or 15th best at Vegas, 17th at intermediates, and 18th at steep tracks. We go look at the last 5 races for Austin Wayne Self. He has an average finish of 21. So, and that's with a wreck last week. So, he can finish inside the top 20. Definitely someone I'd rather play him than Bone and Hill. So, definitely someone to get some exposure on. Just, temper your expectations with Austin Wayne Self because that guy wrecks like every race, it feels like. But when he doesn't wreck, he has good runs. So, I don't hate going there. Josh Ramey starting 30th, 6,600. Not really ever someone I want to roster at all. Last 5 races, an average finish of 26.6. Not someone I want to get to. But Chase Purdy is 6,400, is in the GMS number 24. That's the truck we saw Chase Elliott drive. That's the truck that Sam Mayer just won in last week. It's a fast truck. Now, obviously, he's not as talented as either of those guys, but he can get you a top 10. And if you're going to get a top 10 out of anybody in the 6,000 range, that's someone to go to. So Chase Purdy seems too cheap. I definitely want to go there. He hasn't really run so well this year when he's been in that truck, when finishing inside the top 20 for the most part, but I just think the upside's there, and at 6,400 you kind of have to take a chance on that because I'd rather just play, if I'm playing a tournament, I'd rather just play for the upside than play for like the floor. So in cash I wouldn't go there. I'd go other places like Cram, we'll talk about in a minute, but Purdy, definitely someone in a good play for tournaments in my opinion. Jordan Anderson, 6,200, starts 21st. We go look at the last 5 races for Anderson. It's not pretty. Average finish of 24, so that's not somewhere I want to go. Dawson Cram starts 33rd at 6,000. He has an average finish of 27 in his last 5 races, but he can get you up inside the top 25, and at 6,000, starting 33rd, that'll be plenty enough to pay off that salary. So Dawson Cram, someone definitely have some interest in. Tate Fogelman starts 19th. When we go look at the last 5 races for Tate Fogelman, average finish of 21.6. Hasn't really been running as well as he was earlier in the season, so that's kind of unfortunate, but we know Tate Fogelman can kind of hang around and he can compete for top 15s. He's done it this year, so definitely someone to have some exposure to in tournaments. Spencer Boyd starts 25th, Jesse Iwuji 31st, Greenfield 22nd, Means 36th, Cicerelli 35th, Decker 23rd, Cobb 28th. I don't really want to play any of these guys. They just don't offer you any sort of upside. They don't have good average finishes in the last 5. 23.6 for Boyd. Iwuji hasn't raced in the last 5, but he's going to be hanging around the back. Clay Greenfield 23.25. Baines 33.33, Cicerelli will hang around the back, and Decker 29. So I don't really want to get to any of them. The lowest I'm going is Tate Fogelman this week, but I don't think you need to get super cheap this week. Moffitt's 11,100, but he's not ridiculously priced. But I think that's really all I got to say on the slate. So thank you guys so much for checking this out. Make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, turn on notification bell. All those things really help me out. I hope you guys have a great weekend of racing. I hope you guys make sure to check out my other videos. That'll be out tomorrow. Xfinity Series comes out tomorrow. Cup Series comes out tomorrow. So be sure to look out for those as well. Thank you guys so much for checking this out, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.